Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my first update on my experience with the HP Omen 16. Now, this is the model available at Best Buy. That's where I purchased it. I will include a link in the description. It comes in ceramic white, has an Intel 11th Gen Core i7 11800H 8-core CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD that is a Gen 4 drive because this is an Intel 11th Gen system. We have an RTX 3070. It is a Max-Q variant, so you're not going to get the performance you would from the Omen 17 line, but still, what I'm seeing so far is really promising. And in terms of battery life, also pretty competent. So it seems to be a very solid overall value in terms of price to performance, but let's go ahead and jump into things. So first and foremost, the display, which is a 16-inch IPS panel, 165 hertz, QHD resolution, tops out at about 300 nits, not the brightest, but still very good overall. So take a look and a listen. Make sure that speakers are all the way up here, which they should be, and they are. Brightness on the display is all the way up as well. And while this isn't the best sample for audio performance, I can tell you that the audio from this machine is fairly good for its class in the gaming laptop realm. And another thing this Omen 16 has going for it, like pretty much all of the Omen laptops I've been reviewing this year, it has some of the best I/O on the market in terms of having pretty much everything you could possibly need. I'll go ahead and skip ahead just so you see what the Wi-Fi 6 performance is like. And I've experienced absolutely zero problems with Wi-Fi performance, for those of you that are wondering. Now, granted, my experience is limited so far. It's still worth mentioning. So let's talk about the Omen software quickly. You can see we've got balanced or performance mode. I'm going to run Time Spy now. We'll be doing that in performance mode. No muck switch. You do have the graphic switcher, but that's simply Optimus. So in terms of battery life tests, you know, it looks like about 5+ hours is going to be the top end of things, without gaming, of course. But if you really go into battery saver mode, it looks like we'll be able to do a little bit better. It charges up quickly as expected with the 200 watt supply that is included. You have lighting control. This is all stuff I'll touch on because we do have per key RGB with this model, which I was surprised to see. And then undervolting I have already utilized. It works. I haven't seen that much of a difference in the overall performance as a result. But let's go ahead and run Time Spy. And again, at $17.99, this is not an inexpensive machine, but with that ceramic white finish, it is really sharp. I mean, this is one of the nicer laptops on the market. You know, in terms of overall design, there are certainly some improvements that I would love to see going forward in the future, but I think that HP has done a really good job with this overall. The keyboard is good. The touchpad is good. No numerical keypad, but this machine, again, has pretty much everything that I think any consumer would want in a 3070 build. And because it's under $2,000 and $1,800 is the starting point, of course, this will go on sale. We're going to see that price drop over time. Now, in my experience thus far running Time Spy, we're getting a little under 10,000 is the average score. So I wouldn't be shocked if we end up here with about 9,700, somewhere around there, thereabout, and that's competent. That's good. Now, does that blow away the competition? No. My Asus G15 that I bought back in February, which I likely will end up comparing this to, it benchmarks very similarly, but this has some distinct advantages. For example, no soldered RAM. We've got Gen 4 support for the NVMe drives because it's Intel 11th Gen. And from a battery life perspective, even though it is based around an Intel chipset, there isn't that much of a gain when it comes to my G15. Now, my G15 is lighter, more portable, and it does support charging through the Type-C port. So it does have power delivery. That's one thing that the Omen 16 does not have. And let's hope next gen, which is all of probably 2 to 3 months away in total, maybe 4, when we start seeing 12th gen Intel chips, maybe the Thunderbolt ports will actually support power delivery. And if not, maybe they'll just be smart enough to integrate power delivery into the experience, because I think that is one area that, whether you like Intel or AMD, I think everybody can agree having power delivery is a must. It's something where dedicated chargers work. That's not an issue, but not everyone is buying these to game all the time. They also are being used for work, and general work tasks don't require a power brick of this nature. Now, the brick isn't that big. Essentially, what we're dealing with is something like this right here, and that's not too bad, but it's still something where if you can, tote around a 65-watt charger and still keep this afloat, I think everybody would appreciate that. Now, when it comes to gaming titles, I've done a limited amount of gaming. I've only had this for a few days, so I'm giving you all the impressions I can possibly collect in that span of time. But so far, things are running smoothly. I mean, pretty much in line with what you would expect from a 3070 with excellent thermals, which this has, but with power limitations, because HP has dubbed this a Max-Q variant, and it pretty much is. Now, I don't have an exact number for all of you yet in terms of the draw, but I was hoping to see close to 130 watts. Benchmarking isn't pointing to that. So again, I will eventually be able to deliver that information, don't worry, but it says Max-Q because we're getting Max-Q performance. Now, that's not a bad thing. I think it's completely respectable at this price point. When you think about my G15, which is what I'm, again, going to constantly be drawing a comparison to, the G15 is $1,850 retail. It has gone on sale. I think it presently is for $1,550. At that price, it's a steal, but if you value what the Omen 16 pulls together in terms of design language, because I actually do think it's a more attractive design than the G15, even though it's a little bit heavier, and the I/O is superior. I mean, a full-size SD card reader, Thunderbolt 4, as well as HDMI 2.1 out. You have a dedicated mini display port. It really is more dynamic than what I have with my G15. So if I/O counts, if what I believe to be a better keyboard experience is important to you, then the Omen, I think, is an easy decision to make in terms of being better than the G15. Now, on the other hand, the G15 presently at $1,550 is a steal. So if you're not loyal to either one, I've kind of given you the comparison right there that you need to know. But again, back to gaming, older titles maxed out at Ultra, you're going to, at least native resolution, get 100 frames per second easily. But it really depends on the title. If you're going for brand new AAA titles, like Battlefield is one that I plan on testing out here. I haven't installed it yet. I've got it on the Legion 7 right now, the 3080, and it runs beautifully. But here I'm not expecting that because that's a max power 3080 with 16 gigs of VRAM, and also, generally speaking, a more powerful processor, not per watt when we get stressed, but from a GPU perspective, apples to oranges. Generally speaking, the 3080 against the 3070 max power, both being max P, I wouldn't say that everybody needs the 3080, but to compare it here, it's a rough comparison. Now, in AAA titles, I'm expecting at native resolution, again, QHD 2560 by 1440, 165 Hz with this 16:9 panel, to get somewhere in the 40s to 50s. And of course, if we tweak settings, we could do better, is the way I'm looking at it. And that's pretty much par performance for Max-Q 3070s, which is why they're a sweet spot for so many users. Of course, if you jump up to the Omen 17 and you have the Max Power 3070, I'm not going to say the world is your oyster, but we're moving in the right direction. And that's one of the reasons I love the Omen 17 so much, is because from a performance standpoint, it is just excellent. Now, the fans you're hearing right now, they're calming down a little bit. For those of you wondering about fan noise, under load, it gets loud. Very similar to the Omen 17. Not quite as loud, but even the same sort of whirling sound that it emits. So expect similar audio, or I should say noise, from the cooling system. After all, it's pretty much the same cooling system. Now, I haven't cracked this open yet, but as I've mentioned, we've got memory that can be upgraded, so I'll likely throw 64 gigs in here, see where that takes us. There's our benchmark. It actually did better here, a little under 9,900, and that's a very respectable score. I mean, there's nothing to dislike about that. Now, if I open up Crystal Disk, let's go ahead and see how the NVMe drive performs. And I believe this is a Samsung 980 Pro. It performs just like one, so it's reasonable for my expectations to be that. Until I open it, though, I can't confirm that. But again, the RAM is upgradable. I will test 64 gigs of Crucial RAM in there to see what gains we potentially get. I'm not expecting much, though. It really depends on application, of course. And then when it comes to the NVMe drives, you do have two slots. So I haven't double-checked yet to make sure both are Gen 4, but I think they are. But don't hold me to that. Wait until we get a little bit deeper into this. Again, it's only been a few days. But that's an inherent advantage over my Asus G15 as well, and potentially over the Omen 17, which only has a single Gen 4 drive. But performance, as you can see, excellent. I mean, it's just getting through the benchmark. We're not even halfway through, but already you get an idea of the performance gain offered by having that Gen 4 compatibility. Now, of course, you can use Gen 3 drives. There's nothing wrong with Gen 3 drives, and in fact, you can make the argument for most applications, you're not going to see that much of a difference. And I could tell you, wait for Gen 5. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not that far away. So don't get hung up on Gen 3 versus Gen 4. If, like me, you have Gen 4 drives, it makes something like this more appealing. The good news is that HP is throwing in the best NVMe SSDs pretty much that money can buy. So when you buy one of these, you're not going to need to upgrade. Now, if you want a secondary mass capacity drive, you want to throw in like a 4 terabyte Sabrent, then that's another thing. I plan on testing out this little ditty, the 8 terabyte in here, to make sure that it can actually power one of these, because up until this year, we really haven't seen laptops that could handle them, even if they were workstations. The technology simply hadn't caught up to what Sabrent had been releasing, which is one of the reasons that I love what Sabrent does. They push the envelope. Too many tech companies sit on their hands, so they deserve a lot of credit. And the Israelis have done a phenomenal job with really pushing, and everyone else is going to end up copying, emulating, even Sammy. So while Sammy maybe has the best reputation in the industry for good reason, they're not willing to take the risks on the NVMe drives that Sabrent has. But trust me, they eventually will. So the only games I've tested on here right now are Call of Duty World War II, which is long in the tooth. I'll probably pick up Vanguard as well and test it on here. I've been meaning to wait for a deal here in the holiday season. As I mentioned, I'll also be installing Battlefield 2042. I've played a little bit of Rust, and as expected, they've just performed really well. Things that I wish could be a little better at this point. I thought that the screen wobble had been eliminated from the hinge. It hasn't, but that's nitpicking to the max. And overall, I think that HP needs to start putting privacy switches on the webcams. I wish we got a better webcam. We're still dealing with a 720p webcam, so not a whole lot to brag about there. But again, when it comes to the I/O, overall build quality, gaming performance, and I haven't tested out video editing yet, but I pretty much know what to expect. With this hardware list and Gen 4 support for the NVMe drives, this is going to do a fantastic job for 4K video editing. And when it comes to things like Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, you're not going to run into problems. I may also end up testing Revit on here. I mean, of course, machines like this aren't designed to be workstations, but with the power that NVIDIA brings to gaming laptops these days, and the fact that the Quadro line has blurred so much, they tend to do really well. So maybe I'll get there. We'll see over time. But either way, the Omen 16 in this specific build and with the ceramic white finish seems like a winner to me at this point. I mean, I can't point to too many drawbacks. I mean, battery life, again, isn't as good as my G15, but it's close. I mean, I think that if you really crank down brightness and put on battery saver, and use Optimus, you might be looking at 7 hours of runtime, which, if you can, that's only an hour less than my G15. So that's really impressive. If you're gaming, don't expect much. Like any gaming laptop on the market, none of them can really hang for more than an hour to 2 hours. This machine is no different. But between solid frame rates when playing games and overall what appear to be great thermals, the Omen 16 here in this particular build, I can recommend already. So anyone wondering whether or not they should pull the trigger at Best Buy, I don't think you will be disappointed. This is really now my second favorite to the Omen 17. Had they made this a max power GPU variant, this would be my favorite, because obviously a little bit smaller than the Omen 17, and then having all that GPU performance, that's what I was hoping for. We're close, but we're not quite there. The fact that the full-size SD card reader is fast is another big plus. It's one of the fastest ones you're going to find on a gaming laptop here in 2021. It's the exact same reader that's on the Omen 17, so that's something as a content creator I personally love. There's not a whole lot else to tell you. I mean, this is a great laptop, and if you're looking for a gaming system that has a good keyboard, great touchpad, and overall excellent performance, you're going to get it with this. I mean, that is the good news. Now, just giving you a look at the chassis again and that ceramic white finish, it really is a very nice looking machine. It's the same as the regular Omen 16 design language, and of course the Omen 15, Omen 17, but the ceramic white, no fingerprint magnet. I'm not saying it won't get dirty. It will get dirty. But then the I/O, as I've been mentioning, this could be considered a shortcoming. These are only USB 3.0 ports. So really, if you're looking for high-speed connectivity, you will be relying on Thunderbolt 4. No way around that. But again, I think that this is pretty solid. You're not getting as many ports as you would find on Lenovo's gaming laptops, but I think this is well balanced. One of the reasons that I say this machine, for me personally, has slightly better I/O is because of that full SD card slot. That's just something you won't find with Lenovo's Legion series of gaming laptops. But that may or may not be a major issue for you. If you don't care about that, if you're going to use a dock or just a card reader, easily rectified. So ultimately, I don't think that's going to make a choice for anyone here, but it's a nice thing to have. And by the way, the SD cards do go flush. Overall, really liking the Omen 16. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.